These are 7 wide receivers you must start in fantasy football this week. I think they all have monster games. Starting at number 7 with Amari Cooper. Yes, he's coming off a poor performance against a stingy Dallas secondary. This Browns offense just looked like an absolute disaster. Deshaun Watson, who is clearly not the same quarterback that he used to be in Houston, struggled. And he was yet again rusty as he missed the final 8 games of last season. Cooper would have also had a fine week 1 had Watson not overthrown him on that easy 40-yard touchdown. But here's what we like. Amari saw 9 targets, 95% of the routes. He's probably going to see a lot of work again this week with David Njoku already ruled out with that ankle injury. And on top of that, it's a much easier matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense that surrendered 338 passing yards and gave up 30 fantasy points to the wide receiver position in week 1. So there's a lot to like here. I know you feel a little burned, a little discouraged with this offense as a whole, but I do think Watson and Amari have a strong performance in week 2. I put hours of work and research into these videos. All I ask is if you can please subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out more than you know. And more than anything, I want to help you guys win your league. I want to connect with you guys more than just yelling fantasy football stuff at this camera lens. So please leave a comment, question down below. I'd really appreciate it. At number 6, Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, his season debut was a massive letdown. 1 catch for 4 yards and a pretty bad drop on a design play. He looked slow and lost at times, which is not uncommon for a player in their first NFL game. The positive though, Marvin still ran 95% of the routes and will likely continue to improve as the season progresses. I know I saw a quote yesterday from Kyler Murray saying it's not his job to get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball. You don't love to hear that. That's kind of a weird answer. I don't know if it was taken out of context or not, but not super supportive for your superstar in the making rookie wide receiver. But overall, Buffalo was a really tough matchup as they allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points to outside wide receivers last season. That clearly carried over this year, but I'm expecting it to be better this week against the Lions secondary that just got shredded by Cooper Kupp in week 1. This game will likely be a shootout, a lot of points scored, so don't panic yet. Keep Marvin Harrison Jr. in your lineup. At number 5, Terry McLaurin, another guy that you're like, what happened? How was Terry not involved in the passing game? It was a little bit of a surprise, but rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels was just getting comfortable out there, and he relied more on his legs than he did through the air as he ran for 2 rushing scores and didn't throw a passing touchdown. Head coach Dan Quinn already said that he would like to see Daniels throw more than he runs. I think we get that this week against the New York Giants secondary that's just not that good. They got shredded by Sam Darnold in week 1, and they allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers last season. Daniels is going to throw more in week 2, and when he does, he's going to be looking for Terry McLaurin early and often in a very, very nice matchup. I think Daniels and McLaurin connect on their very first touchdown this week. At number 4, Malik Neighbors had one of the better rookie debuts as he reeled in 5 catches for 66 yards on 7 targets. And that's all considering how bad of a quarterback Daniel Jones is. I can't believe he's starting again this year. I understand it's a contract. It's a money thing, but Daniel Jones is just absolutely horrible. He completed 52% of his passes in week 1, but we're going back to the well with Neighbors because the matchup is just too good to pass up on against a Commanders defense that allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers last season, and they're already looking like one of the worst secondaries in all of football yet again as they just got torched by Baker Mayfield and company, allowing 4 receiving touchdowns for 289 receiving yards. Malik has a strong chance to score his first NFL touchdown. If you drafted him, you're starting him, put him in your lineup, and he didn't even have that bad of a week 1. Like, he's going to be serviceable. Daniel Jones stinks, but I think with the matchup, the situation, and the volume, I think Malik Neighbors scores a touchdown and has a nice fantasy day for your team. At number 3, DJ Moore, who had a tough draw in week 1 against shutdown, lockdown corner L'Jarius Sneed, who allowed nearly nothing to opposing wide receivers last year. This dude is crazy. Yes, he's now on the Titans, and Caleb Williams, rookie quarterback, it was his first game, didn't look great. This offense as a whole was very disappointing under new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. it just looked really bad. Williams only completed 14 passes for 93 yards and 0 touchdowns. But with Keenan Allen banged up, Rome Odunze potentially MCL sprain, looking like he'll probably miss this week. DJ is going to see a ton of volume. Maybe not the best matchup against Houston, but they're going to have to throw a ton if they want to keep up with this CJ Stroud-led potent Houston offense. They're not going to be able to win the game on special teams and defense like they did last week. So start DJ Moore with confidence this week, who's going to see a ton of volume in a negative game script. At number 2, Michael Pittman Jr. Anthony Richardson was absolutely cooking on the deep ball in week 1. Some of those passes were just absolutely ridiculous, like not even planting your feet and just chucking it 60 yards. It was fun to see, but it really wasn't good for Pittman because that's not his game. He's not the deep threat. He works in those short intermediate routes. That being said, Pittman still saw 8 targets and a whopping 42% target share, which was second in the NFL last week, only behind Cooper Kupp. Richardson only completed 9 passes on 19 attempts. Pittman is still the guy in this offense. The passing game runs through MPJ as he ran 88% of the routes, and we'll continue to see a lot of volume in week 2 against a Packers defense that allowed 200 yards and a touchdown to the Eagles wide receivers last week. So even after a not so great week 1, I still feel really good about getting or keeping Michael Pittman Jr. in your lineup. At number 1, Tank Dell. It may not have shown up on the stat sheet, but Dell had a really strong week 1. He had fantastic usage. Yes, even with Stephon Diggs in town. He ran 33 routes of 38 CJ Stroud dropbacks. Dell was mainly coming off the field on running plays, which we love to see, especially after what happened to him last year with that injury at the goal line on that running play, along with a 22% target share, which was second behind Nico, and 45% of Houston's air yards, and an ADOT of 16.6 yards. The big splash plays, the long touchdowns, they're coming. CJ Stroud, Dell, they have a really good connection, and I think they hit on one of those long touchdowns in week 2 on Sunday night. If you don't already have Tank in your roster, I would be looking to acquire him for cheap now before he erupts. And if you have Stephon Diggs on your team, sell him high. Because looking at this data, looking at this usage, I think it's going to be the Nico Collins Dell show in Houston this year. I think Stephon Diggs is going to continue to be pretty inefficient in the passing game. He's not going to rack up a lot of yards on a weekly basis. Yes, he might have touchdowns here and there, but those are not a sticky stat. They're hard to predict. So get Dell on your team before it's too late. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything from this video, if you could please subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps me out more than you know. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.